Hello friends, there are many negative predictions about the new year that has just begun, but I try to take the most positive ones, being aware that the trip will be bumpy. The biggest negative prediction I have ever seen would be the attempt to cause famine to subdue, humiliate and control people, but I hope it fails. These predictions are not mine, but rather of the various authors, and therefore I neither believe in all of them, nor I can be held responsible for them, since we are talking about probabilities and not certainties. Opinion article: New Year's prognosis. January will be choppy, and in March it will improve. Many current systems will collapse. James Gilliland offers a spiritual insight. Mike Adams talks about a revolutionary year. Adams coincides with James Howard Kunstler. It's going to get interesting from now on. Certain beings do not want and cannot go back. The back would disappear from the scene in the third quarter. Default or mortgages could bankrupt the banking system. You cannot fight from darkness, but from joy. Everything will begin to calm down when the brutes are gone. The critical mass necessary to overturn the system must be reached. Let's start. In the coming days of January, a great polarity will be seen. It will accelerate and amplify with a byproduct called temporal chaos, according to James Gilliland's New Year's message, supposedly coming from the galactics on the Pleiadian Council and Andromeda. Prognosis means advanced knowledge of some event. Something like prognosis, but more serious, detailed and conscious. The temporary chaos that occurs depends on us, the inhabitants of the earth, individually and collectively. There are those who align themselves with the universal law that many refer to as unity consciousness, whose main premises are universal peace, brotherly love, individual freedom, and prosperity for all. Things can get a bit chaotic from the first week of January, so be prepared for potential power outages that hopefully won't happen. Don't believe the propaganda media that have turned into compulsive liars. Follow the trail of dirty money, and you will see who has sold their soul to the devil. And there is also an influx of higher consciousness and energy that comes with the presence of higher dimensional beings, adding to the consciousness and energy of the planet. We have entered what is a natural cycle to help humanity make this change. Many of these beings have been through great wars and are planetary liberators. Visitors from the stars are very advanced on a spiritual and technological level. They have transcended all religions and cultural boundaries, wars, disease and poverty. They have power without fuel, anti-gravity and technologies beyond our wildest dreams. Tyranny doesn't exist in their civilizations. There is no shortage, there is no competition that they can replicate, and they materialize everything they need because the universe is their playground. They live according to the universal law at the service of the Creator, within all creation. They too have their challenges, mostly in the past, so they understand and feel compassion for the humankind of Earth. They are here and now to aid in awakening and healing, even if the job is ours. The ascension process is already underway, and it's undeniable that humankind and the Earth are experiencing an acceleration, a rise in frequency. According to science, we are moving through a highly energized place in the space. All bands within the electromagnetic light spectrum have increased. The Schumann resonance has had an unprecedented peaks. Incoming X-ray, gamma and cosmic rays from distant galaxies are also bombarding the Earth and increasing exponentially. The Sun is very temperamental, has been very busy with coronal mass ejections and solar flares, which has also had an impact on a social, economic and physical level. These incoming energies can create mood swings, lethargy, emotional outbursts, social and economic changes, severe weather, and an increase in volcanic and seismic activity, because the Earth is expanding with these energies. Year of the Revolution. For Mike Adams, 2021 will be the year of revolution. Many of today's systems will collapse, and new systems based on higher levels of freedom and decentralization will take their place. It is going to be a fantastic year, and it will certainly be even more disturbing than 2020. So buckle up. It's going to get interesting from here on. Mike Adams, editor and founder of Natural News, aka Health Ranger, is a best-selling author. The #1 best-selling science fiction book on Amazon is called Food Forensics, a multi-award winning novel. Adam found a list of predictions from James Howard Kunstler, one of the great thinkers and authors of modern age. Although he's certainly not a Trump fan, Kunstler is known as an expert in energy economics, among other topics. James Howard Kunstler from New York is a writer, social critic, and lecturer. He is best known for his books, The Geography of Nowhere, A History of the Suburbs and Urban Development, and his most recent work is called The Long Emergency. In his latest books, he argues that declining oil production is likely to result in the end of industrialized society as we know it, and will force citizens to live on a smaller scale in more self-sufficient agrarian or semi-agrarian communities. Beginning with the World Made by Hand in 2008, Kunstler has written a series of science fiction novels that conjecture possible cultures in the future. He also lectures on topics related to the suburbs, urban development, and the challenges of what he calls the plight of the world's oil situation and the resulting inevitable change. Kunstler is also a prominent defender of the movement known as New Urbanism. 30 predictions. Once Mike Adams read Kunstler's predictions, he realized that if he wrote his own predictions, people would assume that he was plagiarizing theirs because they are so similar. So here he simply selected Kunstler's predictions from 2021 with some annotations and comments. First, the election would be re-adjudicated, false votes would be subtracted from the count, and the president would be declared the winner. Second, vote by mail for the second round of Georgia's Senate seats would be disqualified when the truth is revealed, and Stacey Abrams would be indicted. Third, various political celebrities, swamp oaks, media figures, and tech companies' executives would be arrested and charged with election-related crimes. Fourth, the agency would be purified and reduced to an analytical role to advise the executive. Fifth, the bureau would also be packed and the director would be accused of obstruction of justice. Excuse me. 6. Following the reversal of the electoral narrative by the propaganda media, violence would break out in several cities and cause considerable destruction, but eventually federal troops would kick their butt. 7th, the city mayors who allowed the chaos to continue would be arrested, charged with instigating the insurrection and removed from their positions pending trial. 8th, Nancy Pelosi would be replaced as Speaker of the House and Mitch McConnell as Republican Majority Leader. 9. U.S. Attorney John Durham would press charges against attorneys involved in the Mueller investigation, including Andrew Weissmann, Aaron Zebley, Braden Van Grack, and Jenny Rhee. Mr. Mueller would be named co-conspirator, not charged, due to mental incompetence. 10th, Special Prosecutor would be appointed to investigate the dirty business of the well-known family business, and the charges would continue until the end of the year. 11th, the stock market would enter a long and deep asset value deflation during the first and second quarters and would bounce to the bottom for the remainder of the year. 12th, the dollar index would fall below 80 points in the second quarter and 60 at the end of the year. 13th, the GDP of the United States would decline by 40% at the end of 2021. 14th, oil productions would be reduced by 40% by the end of the year. 15th, the banking system would be in disarray due to non-payment of rents and mortgages. The government would intervene with direct payments of assistance to tenants. Homeowners in arrears would be allowed to stay in their homes on a temporary basis. 16th, outbreak of bubonic plague among homeless people in Los Angeles, and rats proliferate in their camps. 17th, pension funds would collapse when the broken chain of rent and mortgage payments would destroy a real estate investment trust. 18th, the federal government would be forced to organize massive food distribution programs. 19th, millions of people would sign up for hands-on New Deal-style projects, some of them valuable. 20th, New York City would be forced to minimize subway service as money runs out. 21. California Governor Gavin Newsom would be removed from office. 22nd. Mr. George and several directors of NGOs financed by him would be charged with crimes of financing electoral campaigns. 23rd. General Motors, Chrysler, and Ford would again seek bankruptcy protection. This time, their assets would be sold and reorganized into smaller companies. No rescues, because we are already tired of them rescuing the big one and not rescuing the little ones. 24th. The bug would disappear from the scene in the third quarter, but the economic carnage would remain. A lot of restaurant equipment was sold for dimes. 25th. The hysteria of awakening evaporates as citizens struggle with the desperate problems of everyday life. 26. The collapse of higher education would begin in earnest as the college loan scam imploded. Many universities would be closed and others would be reduced. 27. Hollywood celebrities would apologize en masse for past behavior and apologize to the victims. However, the collapse of the film industry would continue as people would seek other people's company rather than canned entertainment. 28. Professional sports would go bankrupt when the business model failed. Local soccer and baseball leagues would be started at low cost. 29. Twitter and Facebook would become public services. 30th. The false Great Reset attempt would fail, and the attempt to force everyone to a global digital currency would be rejected. 3 messages from heaven. Are you going to war against the dark? The 9D Arthurian Council, through Daniel Cranton, affirms, you are the ones who are leading the way, but you are not leading the way in the 3-dimensional paradigm of going to the war against the dark. You are leading the way by providing that moving into the light is not only inevitable, but it's also a tremendous journey that it's filled with joy, freedom, love, peace, and excitement. And that is what this journey into the 5th dimension can be, a celebration of life. According to a message from Archangel Michael, there are many people who still live in a fear, which has been orchestrated by the dark side from a long time, and it may take a little longer to awaken from their slumber. They fear illness, they fear lack of money, they fear lack of food and water, but most important of all, they fear lack of love. All of these fears are simply illusory. In truth, there is enough good health, money, food, water, and of course love to go around the world in abundance. Sanat Kumara affirms through Jan Castle that awakening turns into conflagration, and rest, strife, and humanity continue to prevail on earth to some extent. Humankind is in the process of awakening, and circumstances are created that accelerate this process. Certain beings do not want and cannot go back. What will happen is that the number of conscious people will take matters into their own hands. More and more people begin to withdraw from these schemes on a mental, spiritual level, as well as on a real political level. What is now only seen in alternative cycles with brave pioneers will turn into a conflagration. Many people who seemed lost will now have another chance to become conscious. Not a single current even occurs without a great plan behind it, and it is the divine plan, the plan of the light and love, that will emerge victorious and triumphant in the end. Until then, until time dissolves or you have learned to manage time in a new way, you must apply prayer, meditation, resourcefulness, wisdom, and courage. A good beginning, and with the hammer giving. A God begging, and with the hammer giving. That's a Spanish say. The process. First, First, it will increase the division of humanity. You can face this with inner peace and thereby create balance. Second, then hatred will spread. Peoples and individuals will rise up against each other. You can face this with a deep inner sense and an inner vision of the oneness of all human beings. Third, after that, there will be chaos. You better respond to this by initiating your close relationships with the Creator, the spiritual source of your life and all life every day. Fourth, now there will be light within you and in the world. After the brutes have left this land, everything begins to calm down and the change begins. Fifth, you will receive help for the inner earth, and extraterrestrial forces of light will guide and accompany you. Earth will be integrated into the Galactic Federation of Light, and we will be given a new place in this galaxy. Nothing is what it seems. Although things are intensifying and the victory of the light seems more and more distant, the opposite happens. All the events that are unfolding now are intended to allow a certain percentage of humanity to wake up. The critical mass necessary to overturn the system must be reached. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.